Welcome everyone. My name is Rahul Roy. I am a research assistant at the Center for Critical and Qualitative Studies at the University of Liberal Arts, Bangladesh. And the topic of my presentation is fact-checking culturally adapting disinformation or misinformation, a phenomena of traveling fake news across South Asia. So the content of my presentation will include a brief overview of South Asia, the state of disinformation and misinformation, and the rise of fact-checking as an effective countermeasure. Then I'll talk about some of the properties of culturally adapting disinformation and a case study of such culturally adapting disinformation and misinformation in greater detail. So, when we talk about modern South Asia, we are basically talking about countries that have emerged as independent nation states from the British colonial experience. However, the history of South Asia dates back to the Indus Valley civilization in the 2300 BC. So the combination of the colonial experience, the post-colonial nation building, and the long-standing cultural conflicts make South Asia a vulnerable region. Moreover, there has been great economic and social developments in South Asia, which has led to greater technology use and social media applications use. And this has led us to see an increasing information disorder, which can um, directly affect historically rooted problems in the region. In recent times, there has been many reports where we have seen that social media has instigated violence, nationalist tensions, and religious tensions in many South Asian countries. And to combat the bad effects of social media, we have seen many South Asian nations adopt fact-checking as a effective countermeasure. Moreover, there are many media and digital literacy outreach programs. But from the fact-checking experience, we have seen that there's been an increasing corpus of data from which we can extract insights into the pattern of disinformation and misinformation in the region. And it is through this data that we have identified the phenomena of culturally adapting disinformation. So, with culturally adapting disinformation, the content of the disinformation most of the times remains static. However, the virality of that same content depends on the context and the cultural conflicts during which they are being shared. They generally have a tendency of instigating real life violence along religious, ethnic, and cultural lines. And in the next section, we will see an example of such culturally adapting disinformation. So the case study in question is a video that originated in Sri Lanka. The video is basically a hazing incident that happened at a Sri Lankan university where senior students were seen throwing buckets of water at burqa-clad female students. The incident was first reported by a Sri Lankan news channel on 24th February 2019. However, the video resurfaced on social media platforms on 27th February 2019, but this time in the Indian and Pakistani social media space. The video was decontextualized with claims like Muslim women being harassed and tortured by Hindu right-wing groups in India. And the most interesting thing for this is that the political backdrop during this period was that India and Pakistan were engaged in aerial combat over territorial disputes in Kashmir. And eventually, the claims were debunked by both Indian media outlets and fact checkers alike as being false. However, 3 years later, during the same month, the same video resurfaced, but this time in Bangladesh and Pakistan. There was a similar narrative that claimed Muslim women being harassed and tortured in India by right wing extremists. However, the political backdrop was such that in India, during this period, there were news reports of female Muslim students being harassed for their religious outfit. And that is why we saw the resurgence of this video once more. This video then again went to be debunked by both Pakistani and Bangladeshi fact checkers. So, what is the significance of this culturally adapting disinformation and misinformation? Generally, we can see that the historically rooted cultural tensions in South Asia can act as triggers for this kind of disinformation and misinformation in the region. As we have seen from the case study, that this kind of disinformation can travel across time, across space, and they generally adapt narratives that exploit ongoing crisis moments, whether they be national or cultural. So we see a great need for research on South Asian disinformation and misinformation studies that include more critical approaches and integrate culture, history, and politics for the study of the triggers, diffusion, and possible countermeasures of disinformation and misinformation in South Asia. That is the end of my presentation. Thank you.